What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at Data Dash, and today is November 7th of 2019. Well, folks, I hope you all are having a fantastic day wherever you are, and seeing as I'm going to be likely traveling on Sunday, I thought I might as well go ahead and do an early macro report. And we're going to be diving into a wide range of different markets that you guys like me covering here on the channel, so we'll dive right into it right after our quick sponsor. Our sponsor for this episode is Exodus.io. Exodus is one of my personal favorite cryptocurrency wallets. Whether it's the ease of use or the clean user interface, the wallet has a lot to offer. It's supported on both desktop and mobile, allowing you to sync your wallet across multiple devices so you can have access to your funds anywhere and at any time. It's also integrated with Trezor hardware wallet, making advanced security easy for everyone. Exodus supports over 100 assets and recently added NANO and Cosmos or Atom. And one of the coolest features is that you can quickly exchange directly from your wallet without ever giving up control of your private keys. Click on the link in the description below to download the Exodus wallet for your desktop and mobile phone. Alrighty, everyone, so let's go ahead and start off by taking a look across the board on crypto markets. We'll also take a look at cannabis markets. I'll take a look at precious metals as well. We're going to take a look across a few different things. And if you guys have a market you guys want me to cover after this video and the next macro report, leave it down in the comments down below, and I'll definitely keep it in my mind and try to make sure I get it in there. And also, if you have some general questions as well, feel free to leave them in the comments. Now, let's go ahead and take a look across the board on crypto markets, as we would generally in an update. So you can see here, not much of a general trend, more cryptocurrencies to the downside as Bitcoin has ticked down a little bit over the last few hours. But again, nothing serious in the sense of trend right now, right? Bitcoin is only down about 2%. It's just barely out of a no-trend scenario. But if we take a look here, you can see overall market cap has dipped a little bit, about a little bit over $5 billion. We can see here as well, altcoins are following in this case, right? We got a little bit of a dip here, about 1 billion. So again, altcoins not selling off that strong. We're in a small market where, these billion-dollar moves are very easy to happen, yet at the same time, they are showing significant changes in the dominance, right? We're closing down on some of those gains that Bitcoin had made in about a 24-hour period when we saw the crazy rally off of the China news and all of the capitulation that came with it, right? All the short squeezes and things of that sort. But let's go ahead here and take a look at the weekly trend, right? If we take a look at our indicators, everything still pans out, guys. If you're following my strategy, right? Again, I'm not trying to tell you guys you should. You should use maybe my strategy in conjunction with 100 people's stuff, and you've got to make your own decisions at the end of the day. But as you all know, I have a 3-indicator suite strategy that I use if I ever use indicators. I'm mostly a naked trader for the most part, but I do use these 3 indicators to give me a signal of momentum and direction of markets, okay? And that's the squeeze momentum indicator, the MACD, and the Stochastic Rsi. Now, if you guys want to add these, they're free indicators. You can add them. You would type in a few different things. So you type in the MACD, first one here, right? The other one is the Stochastic Rsi. Oops, I accidentally misspelled that. Got my mic in the way of the keyboard right here, Stochastic Rsi. And then the other one is going to be the squeeze momentum. All right. So if you type that and you go down to one made by Lazy Bear, that's the best one in my opinion. It's, as you can see, one of the most mainstream indicators on TradingView. But people usually use it on very small time frames where it's relatively useless. I use it on longer term time frames where it can actually show a lot of consistency. Okay. So again, as we can see here, the start of the trend here for altcoin dominance gaining in this market with Bitcoin dominance declining, we saw here, for example, was very clear. We already saw back here in August when Bitcoin dominance was extremely strong. We were in the trend, things were looking good. We started to see a decline in the divergence. This is the first warning sign here. Not to mention as well, the squeeze momentum indicator on September 2nd, right at the peak, set a lower level. This is again another sign that the trend is reversing. And here on September 16th, after about 1 to 2 weeks of downside, we could see here that both of the lines entered into the purple channel here. When you get one of these lines, that's a warning sign. When you get both lines, again, to me, that's a full-on warning sign that the indicators turned bearish when you enter in towards the purple zone here on the Stochastic Rsi, and vice versa. When these lines enter back into the channel from the bottom, that's a bullish sign, right? So we see them ticking up here a little bit. They have not gotten in that zone yet. If we were to see a reversal by the end of this week, right, and things maybe went above the previous level of Bitcoin dominance, and maybe the MACD divergence in this case was ticking upwards, so it was shrinking back towards being in the middle, and we also saw the squeeze momentum indicator going up, that's when I will actually turn on my trend, right? I'm not going to try to get emotional about this, guys. I'm not trying to remain biased. I'm just following my 3 indicators on the weekly time frame, and that's key to note. It's on the weekly time frame. It's the best one to use across most markets, especially in cryptocurrencies from what I've seen. All right. So we've talked about that. In the sense of Bitcoin, guys, we'll go ahead and take a look at Bitcoin's price just to kind of give you guys a quick summary of any changes. If we take a look here on the daily, we can see here again, not much is going on. I'm not going to waste your time, guys. There's not much of a trend here. What was looking like it might have been able to, for Bitcoin to possibly do a little bit of a cup and handle breakout, which would have been nice. I don't think we're going to get that. I think this is going to be a very, very slow workup towards the halvening in May of 2020. There's a really good article, and I'll actually put it in there. I meant to put it in today's video. One of the guys on Twitter I follow, Rect Capital, sent me a DM and showed me a Medium article that I want to showcase to you guys, and I'll do that in the next video. But it basically talked about, obviously, the sheer fact that things usually tend to take longer than expected, and mostly focused in on how the halvening, we don't actually see a breakout to new highs from the previous cycle until the halvening happens. And that's going to be in May of 2020. I know it's 6 months away, right? It's not fun, or well, actually probably a little bit more than 6 months away. But the important thing to note is that we don't want to trade off of our emotions and have extremely high expectations. The sheer fact that Bitcoin in this case, between now and May 2020, is likely going to be past 14K, that's good news, and I believe we're absolutely going to get there before May of 2020. But to break above the previous 20K highs, that's going to be post-May of 2020 if history tells us anything, okay? So I just want to get that across, guys. Again, I will share that article in the next video, so I hope you guys will stick to for that. But let's go ahead and talk about these different markets, right? All right, so first off, we'll go ahead and talk about 3 altcoins that I am keeping an eye on. Now, you guys already probably know 2 things. One, I'm pretty exposed into Chainlink right now. It's one of my biggest positions because I do see it as one of the Ethereum, Litecoin, XRP plays of this cycle. But along with that, there are some altcoins that I am watching, and they're ones that are already on the market that actually seem to be making pretty decent comebacks, at least that are standing out. All right, so let's go ahead and run through these 3 plays. One of them you guys already know, and I'll just go ahead through it here, and that's Raven, okay? So Raven is one that I've been watching for a while. And the interesting thing about Raven coin is it's come all the way back down to its Bitcoin comparative support here, right? Now, if we take a look at the weekly, I got to be fair here. Indicators are not looking good. The squeeze momentum indicator, looking good. The MACD, not looking good. Again, no growth in the divergence to the upside as it should have followed through here as we started to see a decline in the MACD. And this Stochastic Rsi is not looking good, right? So the weekly indicators aren't looking good. But to me personally, right, if I look at the daily here, as a trader, we're back down to the support range. I think there's a very favorable, at least in the way that I would trade, a very favorable short-term trade here. And that would be one where I'd have a stop range a little bit below 300 in this case. I don't know exactly what level. It would depend on how long of the time frame I'm trying to trade this. But so long as this holds above 300 Satoshis, right, this has got a favorable possibility to come back up to one of these resistance ranges at 400 Satoshis, at 500 Satoshis, right? Or somewhere in between, around 460 like we saw last time. Any of those trades are a good return for the potential risk of loss on the trade. Now again, you don't want to set your stops too tight. You can see there's been some days where it has triggered there, where the price has gone down, it would have triggered a stop loss. So you have to have a favorable risk to reward. You sometimes have to be a little less greedy and also take on a little bit more risk in this case, right? So that's something I would watch for. And then maybe what I would do is I not only maybe set some profit taking, basically take a partial share throughout some of these levels, but let some of it ride as well, because as we all know, Raven makes some huge moves. I mean, you don't need me to tell you that. That's the chart right there. And again, you can say it's not fundamental and this and that, whatever. It's the market, guys. It's how it works. There are speculative run-ups in markets. There are algorithms trading on algorithms. There are people who, again, want to ride the wave on a lot of these cryptocurrencies. And I like Raven as a project. It's actually doing some really exciting stuff that can justify some of these swings. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the other 2 plays here without taking up too much time on Raven. The next one is NEO. Now, I know a lot of people are excited about the China play and things of that sort. More than anything, I like NEO because with this bump up in price, it makes it a pretty attractive project in the sense of technical analysis or how I strategize over markets. Now, you already know I've been a big fan of NEO. I've been following it since it was Ant shares, and I'm really excited on a fundamental sense about NEO 3.0. Again, that's going to be sometime out. It's going to be sometime in 2020. I think it's early mid-2020s when they expected it. Don't take my word for it. But again, I know some of the people from the NEO team. I think they're an exciting project. And I actually will be speaking in Singapore. I'm actually going to be hosting the NEO meetup in Singapore during the Singapore Blockchain Week. And just decided to volunteer for it. I've been a fan of the NEO project for a while, as I mentioned. But anyways, just a side note, if you guys can make it out to Singapore, I'd love to see you. Let's go ahead, though, and talk about why this looks attractive to me, right? Well, it's not only held the vast majority of its gains comparative to Bitcoin, and volume has faded off as we've, again, held at this range, which is good. We're not seeing crazy sell-side volume to the downside. What was looking like it was going to be a complete reversal is actually held quite resiliently, as it's one of the most prominent Chinese projects. But along with that, let's take a look at the weekly, guys. Stochastic Rsi, looking great, right? Not to mention, when we take a look at the past, when the Stochastic Rsi gets in this range, it holds up here for a few weeks and it keeps chugging, right? So I like that. I know we're not in a full swing bull market, right? But this is, again, the kind of thing I like to see. I like to see consistency in indicators. Along with that, the MACD, divergence, continuing to grow here. Not by a massive long shot like we saw back here. Again, we're not in a full swing bull market, but I think, again, you could see it get up to somewhere around this range, right? And in the previous time we saw this, right, we saw about a 70% rise in NEO comparative to Bitcoin. I'll take that if I can get it over a course of a few weeks. That's not bad. Or I would say more of, to be fair, more or over the course of about, it's probably about 3 or 4 months there. But again, 70% compared to Bitcoin when we're not even in a full swing bull market and haven't passed 20K. I like it. That's what I look for. And also, we can see here on the squeeze momentum indicator, about to flip to the green, right? This is the kind of stuff I like, right? So if you guys want to use my 3 indicator suite here, everything here is flashing. This is a 5 out of 5. This is good to see. Both of the lines here have entered in towards the purple zone and actually have gone above the line. We can see here that the MACD has crossed, the divergence is growing to the upside, and the squeeze momentum indicator looks good, okay? So just another play that I'm watching, and again, I will let you guys know. The other thing I wanted to mention earlier that I forgot is if you want to join our Telegram group for alerts, it's down below in the description. It should be like a Telegram, and the link should basically be a / data dash in that case for alerts. That, and then I also have one that's data _ dash, I think, for discussion, but I might be mixing up the two. Last one I'm going to be looking at is XLM, okay? Lumens. Now, we've talked a lot about lumens. We talked about it yesterday. We talked about lumens a lot during this downtrend. We were looking for a play on this for a while, and I haven't really pulled the trigger on anything yet. I am definitely looking though to make a trade on lumens, and there's a reason. Because right now we've seen not only that it pulled back a little bit from the news that came out the other day about them reducing the supply, and also, I guess on the hourly, I'll show you what I mean. I think on the hourly, it looks really good. It looks like we set a double bottom on previous resistance, which is good. But on the weekly time frame, everything checks out good, right? The Stochastic Rsi up in the end. We can see here the MACD divergence looks like, even though it had a drop here, we have continued to climb back up. It's a nice, healthy uptrend in the MACD. And then also the squeeze momentum indicator about to flip to the upside, right? So I see this very similar as to how I saw lumens over here, right? A long tethered decline here. Again, a rough kind of bottom here. Looks very similar if you take a look here. Now the volume's not going to match because we're looking on Bittrex for the time frame and price action. But we can take a look here at Binance, and you can see that volume's coming in pretty good comparative to the last few months, right? Looking like it's starting to cup up. We're getting potential for a breakout here. You can see the indicators are consistent, right? So that's what I look for. I look for historical significance. I look for the indicators. Again, I'm not going to ramble on anymore about that. Let's go ahead and talk about the one piece of news here. I know many of you have asked me about XRP, whether you like it fundamentally or if it's just for a trade. In the sense of XRP, dropped about 5% off the swell news. And if I remember correctly, guys, some people are acting as this was as if it was a surprise. Whether you like it or not, I've always seen, I thought swell was generally a sell side piece of news, right? There was never usually any kind of breakthrough at swell. Usually was the run up to swell as a conference, as most markets are. It's usually the hype, the build up to the supposed event, and then a sell off into the news, right? Doesn't surprise me. But who knows? We'll see if anything comes out of the XRP developments at Swell. I'm not really too interested in it personally. It's just me. I haven't, done as much research, I guess, as some of the XRP army out there, but I just don't see much of an interest in it. Now, let's go ahead and we'll talk about some other markets here. We've got gold up here. We're going to dive through gold and silver, and then we're going to go ahead and take a look at some cannabis companies, and I'll give you guys my overview of the cannabis industry and what kind of phase of the cycle we're in. So gold, we talked about in the newsletter, there's a potential with gold holding this multi-week rally to the upside. Again, nothing severe, but good few bucks in the sense of price here. Continue what looked like was a furthering of the trend. We have gotten a nice little pullback here in gold, and it makes me confident that we might have a chance for gold to come back towards 1450. I would love that because I'd love to buy not only some gold, I'd like to buy some miner stocks, right? There's a lot of good miner stocks we talked about in the newsletter that I'm interested in. And again, if I make those trades, I will let you guys know about that. But so far, I have not made any positions in commodities outside of the little bit of physical gold and silver that I own. And outside of that, in the case of miner stocks, I haven't bought anything. I'm not exposed to equities right now. So we'll be keeping an eye on that, looking for that pullback down to there. Again, the general formation in this case, just to give you guys an idea, would be something like this. We'd come down over the next few weeks into December as equities are doing well, and into early 2020, right, into March, Q1, we could see a breakout here and continue on from there, okay? So nothing too complex. Don't want to try to predict too far into the future, but equities are kind of strong right now as we're breaking out to all-time highs. So I think that we've got this last final push in equities. Commodities are probably not going to show much strength in that kind of environment. Next up is silver. Okay, take a look at silver here. Silver, very similar pattern here. I think that we're generally going to hold around $17 and again see a breakout up here to 19 to 20 bucks. Actually, all the way to 21 bucks in this case in Q1 to Q2 of 2020. That's going to be a really interesting trade from 17 to 21. And I'll probably, if I actually do any silver trading, I'll not only obviously hold a little bit of physical for the long term, but along with that, in the short term, I'm going to probably do some like leverage trading. I'll probably do 2x or 3x or something like that on that trade. Because it's got a very favorable, in my opinion, the way I analyze it, risk to reward profile. On the weekly, again, I want to see the MACD hold out here. If this gets across, this might not be very good. We can see the Stochastic Rsi coming back almost into this low range. So we might need to see, again, across on the MACD. We might need to see this come down back to where we've historically seen it hit rock bottom. We can see both of these times when it comes down here and we start to get the cross, this is when the next trend starts, right? You can see over here, right? We can buy down here. We trade it around 16 when it starts to cross downward, right? So using these different indicators can be a really big help. It's not an absolute guide to when it's time to buy, but it can tell you when the momentum's starting to decline. You can take a look at the MACD, take a look here at the squeeze momentum indicator. This gives you an idea that, maybe it's time to wait for a correction of some sort. And it won't give you the absolute top, to be fair, guys. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at some cannabis companies, guys. I know many of you out there have wanted to hear me talk about cannabis as a sector because obviously I've kept up with this for a while, and there is some opportunity in this market, but a lot of these companies still are not yielding profitability. Then again, they don't have to yield profitability to be seen as valuable in Wall Street's eyes. We live in crazy times. Along with that, the cannabis industry and stuff is going to be one that we're going to watch. There will be more cycles, but as you all know, as we talk about cryptocurrencies, this is a very similar market. I just want to go ahead, I'll take all my drawings off the chart here. If this reminds you of any market, what does it remind you of? It reminds me of Bitcoin, it reminds me of crypto, it reminds me of these crazy, year and a half long rallies followed by a stark 80% correction. And I think that's exactly what's folding out here, right, guys? We take a look here. Of course, TradingView is going to have to adjust after I move my chart. We can see here that as we had rising lows, right, we started to get consistent resistance, and now we're setting lower lows every single time. And that's the sign that we're still in a bear market. Every time we get a bounce, we're rolling back over. I know so many people are eager. Once they see one of these, green months or green weekly candles, they're like, oh my God, I didn't pick the bottom. I need to FOMO and I need to buy. But the indicators have not signaled that just yet. We do have a slight rise here on the squeeze momentum indicator, right? We have some inconsistencies where it's gotten a little bit worse, then it's getting better. The MACD looks like it's close to across. The divergence is declining. And Stochastic RSI is back in the neutral channel, right? It's going to the upside. But notice how there's a lot of inconsistencies in the trend. Notice on the squeeze momentum indicator and the MACD, and also here on the Stochastic RSI, it's not a completely smooth trend, right? So this can be a warning sign to us to not get too eager, right? This can easily flip on a dime, and not to mention, there's no key support level for this, right? Until 15 or our target range at $10. There just isn't on the chart. So my whole kind of point here is to follow the pattern on the chart, right? Look for where, again, you can get those 80% corrections. That's usually what you're going to get in markets, right? And down here, that's would be basically support on previous resistance, right? Again, I'm not trying to be biased here, guys. I think a lot of these cannabis companies are all in the same boat. I've been following this sector since 2011, 2012. It's just a matter of patience, right? And even if it comes down to this range, I'm not going to be too eager to buy it right away. I want to buy into it when I know there's going to be momentum, because if there's other markets I can be riding, I'm not going to sit by and just hold this for the next year as it teeters along here and builds a slow build up. No, I'm gonna if there's another market, I'm gonna have my money allocated elsewhere, right? So that's the whole kind of thesis of what we want to follow, right? So I've rambled on about that enough. Cronos Group, very similar scenario. I think it's going to get an 80% correction to previous support down here, right? We can see we broke the trend line here. There was a chance I'd been watching this. We did have a little bit of a breakout, but it faded extremely quickly. I'll go ahead and take it to the daily so you can see that. And now we're trending below the support line. And now it's going to start acting likely as resistance. And then we'll curl over, come back down here sometime by the end of the year or early 2020, and we'll settle low probably down here around $5. Nice $3.30 discount per share on Cronos. I definitely would consider that. Market cap valuation will come to something much more reasonable, but with some of the bigger tobacco companies having a stake in this, that is a huge selling point for Cronos in that case, in the sense of getting distribution channels, getting your products out there, making sure you can keep costs at an efficient rate. These companies have been in traditional sectors that have to deal with very similar I guess it's not a very similar market, but similar principles in how you get a product from A to B in this case. And the supply chain system is really the factor here for these cannabis companies in order to make them profitable. So very key thing to keep in mind. You can see here, again, the same thing I'm talking about. These inconsistencies and the divergence continuing to sometimes grow or decline. The Stochastic RSI, every time it's popped up here, we haven't seen the consistent follow through like we saw back here in the past. And yeah, the squeeze momentum indicator is probably the wonkiest one here, right? So again, this is what I mean, guys. If you don't see a consistency in the indicators, don't get eager to buy, right? That's at least how I follow it. And last one we'll take a look at. We'll actually take a look at two more. We'll take a look at an ETF after this. We'll take a look at Aurora Cannabis, or AC, I think it's ACB. There we go. ACB, again, this probably has to be the simplest one. Flat line where there's general resistance, it's going to act as new support. And notice how most of these tops, like you could say it's anywhere from 10 to 12, right? I mean, if we take a look here, if you saw the resistance roughly around, 10, well, 80%, right? Should be red, so I'll change the color. But 80%, take it from the top here, 82, 83%, right? This is the kind of range we look for to buy these markets. Parabolic markets that move 10, 20, 30x tend to have about an 80% correction to close down most of those gains, because little to no market is actually leaving that kind of impact on the world that quick, right? It's materialized over the long term, and that's what will be the next cycle. It'll be sometime through 2020, 2021, when the election cycle comes up in the United States, when there are other regions across the world that are looking towards more lenient cannabis policy. It's a slow but steady cycle, right? And again, I'll tell you guys, I'm not really interested in this stuff personally, but I do believe there's a market for it. And I do believe that over time, people are going to start to realize that legal markets for cannabis and stuff are a huge economic opportunity, and also should be everyone's right to do something like that. If they're peaceful, they're doing it by themselves. My one libertarian view for the day, guys. Anyways, that all being realized, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Well, last thing we'll take a look at is MJ, and also we'll take a look at the YOLO ETF. Again, no trend here that makes me excited in this case. It looks like I want to wait for the next few months before I really get excited about cannabis. YOLO is, I think, one of the clearest indicators, the clear rollover every single time there's been a rally. You know, it really matters. It's a really fitting name, right? You only live once, so why not, you know, lose 50% buying the ETF when it opens? I mean, I'm sorry if you guys happen to invest in this. I apologize, guys. I know a lot of people have bought cannabis stocks, but if you have, I wouldn't stress about it, right? If you've already seen losses on it, you know, if it's a long-term investment, that's fine. But I would say not to be too eager to average in, right? You know, wait till you see that trend reversal, right? That's at least what I look for. Again, I'm not going to give you guys any advice. You got to do your own research. That all being said, I again hope you all enjoyed the video. If you liked it, drop a like. If you want to see more of this, guys, definitely let me know down in the comments. And if there's something I didn't cover, you guys make sure to let me know as well. And if you guys want to support the channel, there's a ton of links down below in the description. I always appreciate it. Helps me do this full time. I love doing it. There's nothing else I'd want to do, guys. But anyways, if you guys want to keep up as well with my startup, there's a link down below where you guys can sign up for the email list. I know I've talked about it probably enough by now, but we'll be having some news coming up here in the next couple of months. But it's an exciting time, guys. Lots going on. And as I mentioned, I will be traveling to Singapore. So tomorrow I'll be doing a video, but I likely won't Saturday and Sunday because I'm going to be at the airport. I'll try to knock out a video for you guys if I can find the time. Maybe do a quick live stream from my phone. Just to chat with you guys, let you guys know how I'm doing, and maybe something by then will happen in the crypto markets. So anyways, I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you all as well for joining me, and I'll see you all in the next video. Stay tuned.